Ichigo Kurosaki has to be one of the most stressed out MC I've ever seen, but the question is, which arc stressed him out the most? We will not be including the 1000-Year Blower arc because it is still being animated and yet I have to read the manga. Starting off with the first arc, the Soul Society Rescue. Rukia transferred her powers to Ichigo despite it being against the laws of the Soul Society, and her punishment for doing so was going to be death by Sokyoku. So Renji and Byakuya came to abduct her and were met with resistance by Ichigo. However, Ichigo did not have the strength to take them on and proceeded to get folded. Though he didn't really know Rukia at this time, he still felt it was unfair for her to die over a mistake. So he decided to set off with Chad, Uryu, and Orihime to go rescue her. They get to the Soul Society and each one of them runs into a powerful opponent. How Ichigo was able to go through Renji, Ikaku, and Kenpachi in one day is crazy. Ichigo was very confident until he faced Byakuya. And Byakuya didn't care for conversation or reasoning, he just wanted smoke. And on some level, you gotta respect it. As you all know, once again, Ichigo got folded. This time by Yoruichi herself. But luckily Yoruichi folded him to save him. And she told Byakuya, give me 3 days, and I'll make him even stronger than you. Now in order to make such a statement, she would have to teach Ichigo Bankai. And normally Bankai takes hundreds if not thousands of years to learn. But to be honest, I don't think what we saw was all the gruesome training Ichigo went through. I think what we saw was only a portion of that training. So Ichigo saves Rukia, and fortunately he was able to beat Byakuya, only to run into Aizen a few minutes afterwards. But we'll get into Aizen later. As far as stress goes, this one would be ranked 3. Now for the bount arc. This one was a little more personal than it was stressful for Ichigo, considering people were having their souls sucked out in Karakura Town, which is the place that Ichigo protects. Anyone who watched this arc knows the purpose of the bounts was to seek revenge on the Soul Society for eradicating their resistance and destroying the Serite. I'm not gonna lie, this arc had Ichigo stressing a little bit, only because he couldn't figure out how to truly beat Kaguya. He had a moment of weakness that only Ganji and Renji could pull out of him. Now it probably wouldn't have been as stressful for him if this simping ass bitch wouldn't have decided, hey yo, let me help y'all so I can kill y'all in here. I'm sorry, I just had to get on Uryu for that because that was a dumbass move. Although it was very personal, I'm going to have to give this one a rank 4. Next we have the famous Hueco mundo aizen arc. Ah yes, the arc that made people skip several seasons of Bleach just to watch it. I cannot explain to you the levels of stress this arc had on Ichigo. Remember how I said Aizen showed up after Ichigo saved Rukia? Well, this is a long time after that. Aizen sends his henchmen, the number 1 Espada and Ukiura, to Karakura Town to find any living souls who have immense spiritual energy, aka Ichigo. And once again, Ichigo got folded. Then, he proceeded to get folded by Grimmjow. Dude just kept getting bodied by every high-level Espada. So Ukiura abducts Orihime and brings her to Hueco Mundo, so Aizen can study her power. But what's messed up is, once he didn't need her power anymore, he was just like, yeah, I have no more use for you, I have the Hokyoku. Bye, bitch. Now Captain Yamamoto told Ichigo, listen, if you go to try and save that traitor Orihime, we will disown you like a black man who plays golf. And knowing he wasn't going to get any help saving Orihime, he said, fuck it, I'll go get her myself. I don't care if I'll die doing it. But luckily, Chad and Uryu pulled up. Uryu wasn't originally going to come because his dad said if he got his powers back, he could no longer help Soul Reapers. But thankfully, Ichigo was disowned like a black man who plays golf. So Ichigo gets to Hueco Mundo and he meets Ukiura. Let me tell you, Ukiura was not a foe to be played with, alright? Ukiura had Ichigo on such ropes that he put a hole in this man's chest. He blew out this man's back. And the only reason he was still alive is because of the hollow inside him. And his hollow conscious could still hear Orihime and connect it to his real conscious. After that, we got to see the fully hollified version of Ichigo. And he was going in. He was cutting off arms, legs. If it weren't for Ukiura cutting off his horn, Ichigo would have destroyed everyone up there. Maybe even Orihime herself. But his hollified form gives out and he comes to. What's crazy to me is when Ichigo saw that Ukiura's arm and leg were gone, he said, yo, that shit ain't fair. Cut my shit off too. Hold up, bruh. I understand that you're all about a fair battle, but no. Why would you want that? Ukiura perishes, unfortunately, and that's the end of that part. And the next part is when Aizen finally makes his move on Karakura Town. And as he's doing so, Isshin is training Ichigo in the Dangai to learn the final Gesuga Tensho. Ichigo finishes his training and heads back to Karakura Town just in time before Aizen hurts anyone else. The two of them fight and are pretty evenly matched. For a few seconds, that is, because Ichigo starts countering Aizen hard and with ease. Ichigo uses his final Gesuga Tensho and almost defeats Aizen and loses his powers. However, Aizen was still able to regenerate and had power still within him. Luckily, the ceiling Kido Kisuke put inside Aizen started to affect and sealed him off. So I'm going to rank the Hueco Mundo Aizen arc at number 2. And if you haven't guessed it already, rank number 1 is going to the Fullbring arc. Now this arc started with Uryu being attacked by an 1800 slave master. Now at the time, Ichigo didn't have his powers because, as you know, the cost of using the final Gesuga Tensho is all of your Soul Reaper powers. Before Uryu got attacked, Ichigo was approached by a guy named Ginjo. And Ginjo offers Ichigo a way to get his powers back. And at first, Ichigo wasn't buying anything Ginjo was selling, until more of his friends and loved ones were attacked. Ichigo finally said enough was enough and gave Ginjo a call. So he starts training with Ginjo, and as they're training, Mr. Tsukishima, aka the Slave Master, is going around one by one attacking Ichigo's friends and family, changing their memories. And during one of Ichigo's training sessions, guess what Ginjo does? This dude cuts out his eyesight, completely blinding Ichigo. Somebody immediately blinding you will have you stressing no matter the cause. I highly doubt I would continue training knowing someone just cut my eyesight, bro. I'll most likely just start swinging at anything and everything. And yes, I am aware he did it to complete Ichigo's Fullbring, but still. Ichigo does eventually get his sight back because of Orihime and her powers, so they finish the training. Ichigo heads back home, and guess who's in his house? The Slave Master. Not only is he in his house, he's convinced everyone in his family that he's a good guy, and he's been a part of their lives since they were little. The amount of people that are brainwashed by this guy becomes so bad that Ichigo has to run. He literally has to run because everyone thinks he's insane. And it's stressful. It's very stressful. And then Uryu shows up and tells Ichigo to get behind him. Now I understand Ichigo's suspicions because literally everyone he knows has been brainwashed by Tsukishima. So I understand why he didn't trust Uryu, but he did repeat himself like 2 or 3 times. If Uryu would have said it to me twice, I would have been like, yeah, I'm coming, bro. Since you're the only same person here. But like I said, I understand Ichigo's suspicions. But it turns out Ginjo was a bad guy all along. And then after he sliced Ichigo, he stole the dude's powers. He stole his Fullbring powers that he just got. Not gonna lie, a lot of people call Ichigo soft for this. But he cried. He genuinely cried. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, he had a good reason to cry. After all he'd been through. Still had a better reason to cry than Deku. I'm kidding. I love Deku. My Hero fans, don't come after me. But yeah, that's what I think stressed Ichigo the most. By the way, if you didn't already know, I made this video like 3 years ago and I just wanted to make a remake of it because I got so many things wrong the first time, and I was just going based off of what I remember from the show. And also I wasn't talking fluidly. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I want you guys to stay safe, stay positive, and remember, be mindful.